1, 2, 3, 4! From the Riffs! Hey, welcome back to From the Riffs, and we're at the Palladium Open House, and this time we've got Irvin Jackson with us. I'm Big Will Johnson. This is Carmen Belair.
Hey.
And we're going to pick up our conversations as we have already with a number of other Palladium artists and one writer thus far. And Mr. Jackson's going to be the second one we talk to. So, Mr. Jackson, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I originally started out as a journalist. I have worked at several newspapers across the country.
Okay.
But it was like a long ambition of mine to actually get into the role-playing game market. I've played since a kid. I'm a second-generation gamer.
Oh,
my mother, when I was 5, put me on her lap and helped me roll up my first Dungeons & Dragons character.
Your mom is awesome.
Yeah.
And
and so that's how I got started.
All right. And so, how about your working process as a writer? I mean, how did you did you just decide to start writing, or was it one of those, I know some people kind of have a eureka moment. They're like, you know what, damn it, I'm going to start writing, or was it just a natural progression for you?
For me, it was a very natural progression. I have been writing since I was a kid. I actually started out being an artist, and I've kind of gone back to that. So right now I'm doing writing and art. But as I became a journalist, it became much more of a very mechanical, refined process. I'm one of those people who I actually have an outline, and I'll have a treatment and a synopsis that I'll write first to get my thoughts organized, and then go through it in a very almost say machine and factory like way, but there's also still a very organic part of that process.
Did you go to school to learn that, or did you pick that up on yourself?
I actually have a journalism degree from Wayne State University.
Oh, cool.
So I went to school for it, and I started out in the news business right out of high school.
See, all the writers are educated. All right. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind telling us, like, how did you break into the business? I mean, how did you get your chance at you finally achieving the dream and getting in, like, to role playing, the actual odds and ends?
Like, how did you go from the professional, journalism?
Yeah,
this is so different. Journalism is such a different ball of wax from working in a role playing. How'd you go from one extreme to the other?
Well, I'd been a Palladium role player for a very long time, and what I had done was I created a website, and there was an artist named Scott Johnson. I wasn't doing my own art at the time. And I contacted him and said, hey, I'm doing this website that's got Palladium stuff. And I asked him permission to use some of his stuff. He said, sure. And it somehow got back to Kevin, and he was like, oh, this guy's cool. He even asked, and he did this great stuff. And I came to the first open house with some of my stuff in mind. I actually had a synopsis of a couple of books, one of which is still in the future, which you're familiar with. And I said, you're Kevin Sabita, I'd like to do this. And he saw my credentials. He was like, okay, wow, I'll read it. I'd like to work with you. And I actually met Mark Oberly at that first open house, and we ended up doing Nightbane Survival Guide together.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Are there any other Palladium titles you've worked on?
Yes, I am now. I'm currently the main writer for Robotech.
Oh.
I wrote New Generation, and I finished a manuscript for Genesis Pitt's book, and that should be coming out pretty soon.
Oh, awesome. Ooh, so a little bit of tidbit on that one then.
Yeah.
Now, is that your favorite genre? Just sci-fi? Or?
I'm a very hard sci-fi fan, and in particular Robotech. In my neighborhood in Detroit, when 4 o'clock would come and Robotech was coming on, it would clear the street. Yeah. Football would stop, riding your bikes would stop, you go in the house, you watch Robotech, you might hang around for Transformers, and then you come out, and for the next 2 hours, you talk about the half hour of Robotech you just watched. So that was a dream come true.
Okay.
And getting on that project. It was funny because Kevin had no idea, and he asked, hey, do you even like Robotech? Would you like to work on it? I was like, oh my God, yes, please, thank you.
Like a kid to candy store.
Yeah, and it's kind of a dream thing to
awesome.
work on something which I loved as a child so much.
Okay, cool. What's your working process like? I mean, other than you said you're very meticulous and very methodical, do you tend to? We've been asking the artists and the writers, do they listen to music when they write? Do they, do they like to have a movie in the background? Are you a nighttime guy or a daytime guy?
I am whenever I'm a father, it's a shot. So I'm whenever my son's asleep.
Okay.
Is when I write, or when I don't have him. That's when I do the majority of my writing. I'm big on music, but for the Robotech stuff, I'll literally sit there and like I was doing New Generation, and I just constantly, all those episodes were playing one after another, after another, and after another, after another. And there were points where I would literally stop and like go with episode and go frame by frame to look at what's going on and say, okay, what did he say there? What did he reference there? And that kind of a thing.
Okay.
And I found that was really became part of the process where I just, but outside of that, what I'll usually do is music. Okay. When I was doing Nightbane, I have like my Nightbane playlist because I was very gothic and Nick Cage and Destroyers, Laguna Coil, and The Cure and stuff like that.
Great.
It's sitting there playing and I'm typing it out as it's playing.
And it's just coming along. It's almost like having a movie in your mind, right?
Yeah, very much so.
All right. Very cool. All right. And would you have any advice for any aspiring writers that are out there? Anyone who's looking to kind of either become a better writer in hopes of getting into the business, or even those people who are kind of teetering on the edge when it comes to getting into the business, and there's like, I just don't know how to break down a barrier, I don't know who to talk to, or how to present my stuff.
Couple things. One thing is write. Doesn't matter what you're writing, doesn't matter if you finish, write. And write in an organized and thoughtful way. And show it to people who are going to be critical of you. Show it to people who will say, oh, this isn't very good. Your best friend who loves everything you do is not going to help you become a better writer. The uncle smart mouth who always kind of knocks you back down, he'll actually make you a better writer because he'll say, I don't like this. And again, as somebody who's being very schooled in it, I always tell people, especially writers, when you're doing something like a role-playing game book, write an outline. Start to finish, get an idea. Writers, for some reason, especially the creative type writers, they hate to do outlines and they hate to organize their work. And once I organize it, I'll see holes. I'll see things, well, wait, I'm not covering this. Or I should put this before this so people know what the heck I'm talking about.
Right.
And once you do that, your process runs much quicker and it's much cleaner and you end up with something that you can finish. Which is a huge problem for starting writers. They don't finish it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great advice. Make me want to write. All right.
You say that you're going through such an organized way of doing it. Do you find that it's easier to do those steps like in a certain method? Like, is your say your outline, is it just point form, or is it a fully written out?
It is fully like when you learned in school, one A, big A, one, little letter. It's literally that.
So you're not doing the dash 2 words and then the next 2 words. You're actually writing out a full on outline.
I am doing a full on outline like you learned in 9th grade.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And that really helps. It really helps organize. And the other thing is, and of course there is some creativity in it. I've had writer's block and things like that. And the cool thing about when you're writing for a role-playing game is you've got kind of 2 types of writing going on. One, you've got your creative narrative that's going when you're describing a character class, or you're talking about a city or a world or an empire, and you get to use that descriptive language. And then you've got your stat blocks when you're describing, in my case, if you're describing a mecha, and you have to put how much MDC it's got and the weapon systems. Right. When I block is a great time to do those stat blocks because they're not a very creative writing process when you're doing them. And if I'm stuck, I'll say, okay, nothing's flowing. Let me do the MDC. Let me do the stats of this armor.
Yeah, that sounds a good way to do it.
And they're very mechanical. And then sometimes that'll shake you loose. You do a couple stats and you're like, oh, I have an idea for this new one. And then you start writing again, and then you are back in the loop.
Okay.
Man, that's some really great advice. So,
you got? Do you know what you're working on next?
The next book we're working on is another Robotech project. Not sure if Kevin's ready to give out the title, but
Well, you can give a tentative title. I mean, we have for everything else we've done.
It's I'm redoing. There was a copy of the UEF Marines,
Okay.
and I guess it was kind of incomplete, and I'm picking that up.
So it's going to be a Marine book then?
Yeah, it's going to be a military book. It's kind of.
So are these the ground pounders?
These are a lot of the ground pounders, but it's also kind of to fill in that gap that was left, I think, by the Sentinels being removed,
Okay.
and people aren't quite sure what's going on
Now,
with that story.
now, is that the only thing you know that you're doing? Is that?
In the future, I would like to get back into Nightbane and do
Okay.
a Nightbane book, and I have an idea for one of those Nightbane
All right.
books. And that was also something I would like to do. Definitely.
That's cool. That's cool.
All right, man. So many things you're working on. It's awesome. So for all you Robotech guys, all you guys who get on the boards and talk about it, there you go. You're already getting some little tidbits. So I think that roughly covers everything
Yeah,
we
that's
wanted to
it.
ask you about. It was really a pleasure having you, Mr.
It's a
Jackson.
pleasure being here.
And till next time, I'm Big Will Johnson.
Carmen Blair.
And
Irvin Jackson.
all right, and this is From the Riffs. And remember, guys, we need you guys to click on those adverts. Those advertisements are going to keep us going so we can bring you bigger, better, and, of course, always entertaining video blogs and all the rest. And we're going to keep going and keep keeping it good. So we'll talk to you later. From the Riffs. Bye-bye.
See ya.